Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's June 30th and these are all the books I read this month. And I started halfway through the month, so I'm pretty impressed on how many I actually got to read. So I'm going from least favorite to favorite. And yeah, pains me to do this, but unfortunately my least favorite book of June was Book Lovers. Maybe called Book Lovers, but I did not love it. So basically, the moral of the story is expectations are everything, because I thought this was gonna be the best book in the world, heard everyone talking about it. This is a library book, and there were 4 copies of it in the library. I'm like, wow, the library bought so many of them. It's flying off the shelves, really popular. So yeah, I thought this was gonna be the best book ever, but I just didn't speak to me. I like the writing, so I do recommend it, but just I couldn't relate to the characters. And this is what I call Airbnb book. And the main character, Nora, she is staying in this cottage in this small town for a month. I'm not super interested in books that are about like, oh, we're staying in this place, this cabin in the woods for like a month. Like, I don't want to hear about your Airbnb stay. I kind of want to hear about your actual life. And Emily Henry writes a lot of Airbnb books. So I'm kind of hesitant. But on the bright side, I didn't like this, but I'm pretty sure I'm gonna like her other books better. So yeah, great writing, but not for me. I have a sister, so I should be able to relate to the sister storyline, but I didn't. I just feel like they had physical intimacy a little too soon, and for me, that's like never a concern. But it was a little too soon, and it didn't have the tension, like the building tension. It was just, they already were physically intimate, so I'm like, what am I even like waiting around for? So, but I like the writing, just wasn't for me. Oh yeah, and then the star system, I have to give a 3 just because my expectations were really high going into it. So the next book is Aurora Rising by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. So I'm like halfway through reading all of Jay Kristoff's books. And I was like, I'm definitely gonna read the whole Aurora Cycle series. But after reading this, it's appearing less likely. This is a 3.75 because every character has a perspective in this book. It's like sitting on one of those merry-go-rounds or spinny things at the playground. You're like so disoriented, you just keep spinning, you want to get off. And all I wanted was Aurora's perspective and Tyler's perspective, maybe one other perspective, but 6 perspectives was too many, and it was just like, felt constantly dizzy. Just don't write perspective books with more than 3 perspectives. Like 6 is too much, too many. Like, I'm just gonna like say this a billion times. So I really like this book. Okay, I have to like be honest. I really liked it, but gosh, the format with all the perspectives ruined it. It's kind of funny because Jay Kristoff, I don't know about even Kaufman, but he writes adult books, so he kind of just replaced curse words with like kiddie curse words, which is kind of funny. So that's how he kind of got around writing this. But it was really good. This is sci-fi. And basically we're in the future. I kind of think of this as like futuristic Top Gun, basically, but with a bunch of teenagers that were kind of like all crushing on each other, and good bi representation in this book. So very inclusive. So yeah, I really like this book, but it was just exhausting with all the perspectives. This book is Tessa Bailey's Secretly Yours. I know what you're thinking. Hallie, this is like really cheesy book. Yes. Yes, it is. And basically, the lesson in expectations was I thought this was going to be the best book ever. I thought this was going to be a bad book. And because I thought that, the opposite happened. And I really liked this book, and I read it in a day, which is crazy. So I don't know, I learned how I'm a really fast reader. I didn't really know that. But I'm biased because the character has my same first name. So these are both small town. They're both male writers. There's another book that I read that also has a male writer. So the authors are really into that. But it had good build up and like tension. And this is pretty much all centered around the relationship between Julian and Hallie. So basically, I'm going to talk about the plot. If you want to read this book, which I recommend, like skip ahead because I'm going to talk about the plot. So here's your chance to skip. So the problem with the plot is this whole secretly yours part of the book. She was writing anonymous love letters to him after they were physically intimate. It's like you already know he likes him. You already know you like him, and he knows you like him. So why are you writing anonymous love letters? So that made absolutely no sense. The whole book, she didn't want to tell him that she was his secret admirer when they already knew that they liked each other. So there was no point of a secret admirer plot. Like that shouldn't have even been in the book. They could have taken that out of this book, and it would have still had a lot going on. There's absolutely no need for a secret admirer plot. So yeah, that kind of ruined it. But my biased opinion is a 4-star rating because 1, I had really low expectations, and 2, she has my name. But yeah, if you want an easy read that's like spicy, and I liked that they were both from a small town. I don't really like, just an Airbnb, you're just staying in a small town for a little bit. It's kind of like cheesy to me. So, yeah, recommend this. There's another book, Unfortunately Yours, and I'm going to read that after this. But I've not heard great reviews about her other books, so I don't think I'm going to read those, but I'm going to read the sequel to this. Next, this is The Shadows Between Us. This is, I guess, another 4-star. I can't recommend it enough. It's basically Bridgerton, but fantasy. It's fantasy Bridgerton. So please recommend more books like this. I really liked it. The main character was mean, but I still liked her. But basically, the plot in the front jacket is that the main character, Alessandra, wants to kill the king, so she can become queen. That's the whole. So it's the Bridgerton, but dark. But yeah, it was really fast paced, but am I going to give her a speeding ticket? Nope. I'm fine with a fast paced book. Yeah. I kind of don't have any. Yeah, the only bad thing about this was that it was fast. So that's kind of all I can say. But yeah. I'm gonna go read basically all the rest of her books. But yeah, this is so fast and easy to read. There's not that many words on each page, so this doesn't need to take you that long to read. But yeah, I don't hear enough people talking about this book. I hear people talking about Daughter of the Pirate King, which I'm gonna read also. But I haven't heard no one talking about this book, but I really, really like it. And I think it's a standalone, but, I would not be surprised if there's a sequel. There's plenty of space for a sequel. So, yeah. Really into that. We love a feminist main character. So, to that. Now, this is Normal People by Sally Rooney. This is 5 stars. And some people don't like this. And this is the only, concession I'll say. I did have to put it down because, well, one, I've seen the show, so I already knew what was going to happen. So I didn't, feel I need to read to find out what happened because I already know. And then their miscommunication was, and just, how their relationship struggles were kind of a bummer. So I did have to put this down. But it's still 5 stars. Still got back into it. I got this book like a couple years ago, and then now it's summer, I have time to read, so finished it. So yeah, technically I didn't start this in June, but the show absolutely biased me to liking this book. The show made me in love with the characters, invested in the characters, made me able to visualize this book, care about this book, love this book. So yeah, the show was everything. I highly recommend you. I don't know if this is bad to say, watch the show first and then read it, but that's how I did it, and that's what I do recommend. But basically, it's about 2 people in a small town. So all of these books are all about male writers who are the male love interest, which is interesting. But it's fun in a small town because they're both from the small town, which makes sense. I think it's kind of cheesy when someone comes into the small town, you know. Anyway, and they find themselves like just their relationship, you know, changes from friends to lovers. So yeah, please recommend me more books like this. It's very dramatic, but yet subtle at the same time. So it's not cheesy, super realistic, and it just pulls at your heartstrings. But yeah, they're a couple, and they kind of follows them through many, many years of life, through college and after, and kind of examines how they change as people and change and how they're showing up in the relationship with each other, how they date other people and come back to each other. And yeah, I really appreciate it. It shows like the connections through friendship and how that's different from more romantic connections. And they're each going through dark mental health struggles. So yeah, check the trigger warnings. But I wasn't super triggered by this book. But yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, I wasn't like crying at it. I don't know. Maybe it's because I already knew what happened. But yeah, it's not a tragic book, but it will, you know, it has dark and like emotional themes. So yeah, this is definitely 5 stars. People who don't like this, I guess they just didn't watch the show or something. That's what I would say. If you are debating to read this book, like, oh, I've heard bad things, like, honestly, oh, the one thing is it doesn't have quotation marks. So that is a very logical reason not like this book. But honestly, the writing is amazing. So I'm very confused why people don't like this book. But it really shows how kind of communication is everything. Because sometimes in this book, Marianne, the lead, will say, oh, I wanted to kiss you, but I didn't. And he's like, oh, I wish you had told me. And then there's one part where she's like, I wanted to move in, but she never told him. And he's like, oh, I wish you told me. So everything is kind of like, they say, I thought it was obvious. Like, that happens so many times in this book, but they just didn't talk to each other. And then it's just beautiful the way they find themselves back with each other. So, anyway. So yeah, this kind of more plug for the show. Watch the show, it's on Hulu. And also amazing book. So those are all my reads. If I read 5 and I started halfway through June, I'm probably going to read 10 next month. So we'll see. Next I'm reading The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn. I'm blanking. And I'm also reading Jade City. So, yep. I am going to read this next. And thank you so much for watching this video. And I will see you in the next one.